Kanye recently signed a 10-year partnership with Gap for Yeezys. Now, I think that's a terrible idea for Kanye, and I'll tell you why. There is a different brand that the Yeezys have and that Gap has. What do you think? Do you think they go together? I really don't. They're miles apart. It's kind of like if you heard Louis Vuitton said they're signing a deal with Gap. It doesn't make sense. They have two different value propositions. One is super affordable, that's Gap. Whereas Kanye, it's cool, it's fashion forward. It's just an amazing product in terms of the designing and everything. So from the Yeezy standpoint, the Yeezy brand. So the Yeezy brand, the premier product of the Yeezy brand, as everybody knows, is the Yeezy sneakers, right? So the Yeezy sneakers, what, you're paying a few $100s, if not thousands of dollars to get it, depending on whether you're getting direct or on the resale market. So versus when you go to Gap, where for that you may be paying $10 to maybe $70 for something from the Gap, or even less than that. So it doesn't align and it doesn't make sense. Think of it, when you first heard Yeezy is partnering the Yeezys line with Gap, did it make sense to you? And Kanye's a genius. I definitely believe he's a genius. I think he's done so many amazing things in music, with the Yeezy line, in producing. Like, Kanye is a genius, but sometimes geniuses get things wrong. And I think for this is a really bad partnership for Kanye. It works out better for Gap in the short term because they get something called the halo effect. Whereas if you get a premium product or a premium brand in your store, it kind of raises up the value of the brand and the other products in the store. However, the issue with that is, I think that's a short-term effect that's going to happen because it's just too different. It's way too different, the line versus the brand. And like, I get from the standpoint of Gap why they're doing this, right? They've been losing money, I think it's over $1 billion. And so this is a great lifeline in the short term for them, but also for them, this doesn't line up. It's a shot in the arm, but this doesn't line up for value proposition, what people go to the store for. People don't go to the store to get for Yeezys. Yes, it's going to boost their traffic in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to hurt Kanye a lot. And I think it's going to pull the Gap from a branding perspective. It's going to really knock around how they have to decide what goes in the store and what doesn't go in the store, how they set up the store. It's a different walk-in. Now, I know people are going to say, hey, it's the Yeezy's clothing line, is something different. The issue is from a branding perspective, even if it's the Yeezy's clothing line, it still has that name Yeezy attached to it. So that Yeezy is not, we don't know the Yeezy from the clothing line. We know Yeezy from the sneaker line, right? That's the thing, first thing you think when somebody says Yeezys, right? They don't say, oh wow, his full runway line. No, people say, yeah, the whatever sneakers that came out. People think of Yeezy's version 1, 2, whatever. So it's coming from that versus thinking about the clothing line. So the clothing line is more of an afterthought. And that's, for some reason, Kanye has not hit his stride with his clothing line. And I think that eventually he'll be able to hit it because he's shown his ability to replicate success with his sneakers line. However, he needs to find his groove with his clothing line. I don't know if the Gap is going to help him do that. I think, yes, he had a couple that really did. It's not doing well, so I get people may say, hey, but the Yeezy line's not doing well. But still, it doesn't make sense from a price point. It doesn't make sense from what Yeezy's trying to do with the clothing line to put it in Gap. It really doesn't make sense. And the fact that the clothing line also has the name Yeezy is going to diminish the value of the sneaker line, right? We call it brand erosion, right? It's going to erode the brand in terms of you have to have a consistent message. And if your message about Yeezys is high quality, limited quantity, super fashion forward, right? If you start putting stuff in Gap, you're going to have to create it in a different type of model. You're not going to put $300 items in Gap. That doesn't make any sense. You're not there. Well, you'll get some short-term sales from it, but eventually it's going to taper off and it's going to die out. So he's going to have to change the model, change how he produces, change the amount of things he produces, and that's really going to mess with his strategy as well as Gap's strategy. So I really don't know what Kanye is trying to get in doing this partnership. What I would have suggested if I was advising him as his brand consultant, I would have suggested, hey, create a different line, name it West, right? West by Kanye. So I would have named it West by Kanye, put it in the Gap, that's a whole different thing. So, but because of it's called West by Kanye, people are not equating it with Yeezys, right? When people buy that, people really want to go after it. It's not going to affect the brand image of Yeezy. However, by keeping the clothing line as Yeezy and putting it in the Gap, it's going to affect the brand image of the Yeezy sneaker. And that is not a great thing for Kanye. I don't think this partnership is going to end well or create the type of value that Kanye thought it was going to create when he was going into doing this. So I'm really trying, I've been thinking about this for a while, and it just doesn't make sense. I understand why Gap did it. I still think it's a mistake for Gap. Short term, maybe they want to cover this, it'll be a short term infusion of cash. And maybe that's what they need. Sometimes you do plays in business because you need short term infusions of cash. So that makes a lot of sense for them if they just need, maybe they need to add another $10 million to $100 million in revenue. Okay, that's great, but that's short term money, right? However, over long term, it's just not sustainable with the Yeezy name. It will eventually lose its meaning, and that's not great for Gap or Kanye. It's gonna hurt more for Kanye than it will for Gap. So we'll see about that. Now, in terms of like when you're creating something with different value, so let's say there's high quality, medium quality, low quality, right? So when you do that, you typically don't want to use the same brand you have for high quality, for medium quality, or for low quality. You want to create a different brand name for each of those so people don't get confused. Would you be confused if you see Yeezy in Gap? You'll be very confused. You're like, I don't go to Gap for this type of product. Why is this here? You're going to start asking questions internally like, if it's here, I know this, so is this not as high quality as I thought it was before? Is this not as cool as I thought it was before? So why should I go and spend X amount on some Yeezy sneakers if I'm seeing at Gap and people can get this clothing line? Like, it doesn't mean the same. And part of the appeal of the Yeezys is how much it costs, right? And the rarity. So if you take away that, people are going to start seeing Yeezy, even though it's not the sneakers, but because it has the name, people are going to say, I don't like that. I don't think it's as rare as it anymore, because now they're seeing it everywhere and everybody has it. And unfortunately, people like things that, a lot of people like things that are just scarce. They don't want other people to have it, and that's part of the appeal of having something. Actually, so I have one idea, and this may be a long shot. In fact, if they're going to keep the Yeezy line and how it would work, what they would have to do to make this work, I think if they really was to limit it to maybe 5 to 10 pieces per Gap store, I think that's the one way that it could possibly work long term and kind of make it super affordable. I think it kind of like the Supreme models. If you go out buy something Supreme, it's not as expensive as it is on the resale market. So if they did that, made it super scarce and just said, hey, limited quantity per Gap store, I think that's a one way they can kind of save the brand image. But other than that, I think it is a bad idea, and I don't really think Kanye should go through with this. I think this doesn't work with them. So if they do use my idea, we'll see. I think that could possibly work. But other than that, I wouldn't go through it with it. This is Achumboro Ataande. This is Ataande Business Meeting. I run a branding and advertising company. Please subscribe to my videos by clicking on the button down there. Also hit the bell notification so you can stay up to date on things. What do you think? Do you think this is a good idea for Kanye? Do you disagree? Do you agree? Are you going to get Yeezys from the Gap store? What do you think about the idea that I put in place? Is there any other topics you'd like me to cover? I just did a video on LeBron and $100 million that he got investment. Please check out that video over here. And for other videos, you can see I did tips on branding over here. Hope you're doing well. Have an amazing day.